What if everything we know about ancient civilization is wrong? Massive stones weighing thousands of tons, underground cities carved deep beneath the earth, structures so precise that even modern engineers struggle to explain them. And the most shocking part? Many of these wonders were built before metal tools, before the wheel, and even before written language existed. Tonight, we journey across the planet to uncover 7 ancient mysteries that should not exist. The largest carved stone on the planet weighs around 1,500 tons. That is the weight of 10 adult blue whales combined into a single block of stone. No ordinary mobile crane in the world is capable of lifting it off the ground. This stone has been lying on the mountain of Baalbek in eastern Lebanon for almost 2,000 years. And to this day, no one knows exactly who began carving it or why. Today, I will show you 7 ancient structures that modern technology still struggles to explain. Each one on this list becomes more impossible than the previous one in at least one key aspect. By the end, you will see stones so hard that diamond drill bits lose their sharpness and break. And near every site, the same thought keeps returning. This was built without modern tools, built without metallurgy, without the wheel, without writing, and even without agriculture. In southeastern modern-day Turkey, there is a hill locally known as Göbekli Tepe, rising above the plain. In 1994, the German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt discovered something astonishing there. Beneath the soil were enormous T-shaped stone pillars arranged in large circles. Radiocarbon analysis showed an age of about 11,500 years. That is 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, and nearly 6,000 years older than the famous Stonehenge. When Göbekli Tepe was built, no written language existed anywhere on Earth. There were no cities, no villages, and no cultivated fields. The people who raised these pillars were ordinary hunter-gatherers of that distant era. They had no cranes, no steel ropes, and no metal tools. Only flint axes, animal sinew, and their own shoulders beneath the weight of massive stones. The tallest installed pillars reach 5.5 meters in height. The central pairs weigh between 8 and 10 tons each. But in the nearby quarry lies another pillar that was never moved. It is 7 meters long, 1.5 meters thick, and weighs around 50 tons. Something went wrong. Perhaps the stone cracked. Perhaps there were not enough people to move it. On the pillars themselves are carved bas-reliefs of animals from that ancient region. Lions, boars, foxes, scorpions, vultures, and snakes, all carved in full form and with remarkable depth. The carvings were made using flint tools on dense limestone, without metal and without grinding machines. And there is another detail revealed by modern geometric studies of the complex itself. The 3 main structures are positioned at the corners of a perfect equilateral triangle directly on the ground. No measuring tape, no blueprints, and no writing system, because writing had not yet been invented. After the complex was completed, it was carefully buried under layers of earth. The very same people who built it used their own hands to hide it and protect it from human eyes and the forces of nature for 11,500 years. Excavations are still ongoing. So far, only a small portion of the entire complex has been studied. If this journey deep into the world of ancient stone fascinates you, subscribe to the channel. Every next object on this list surpasses the previous one in pure incomprehensibility. These structures were built without paper plans, without engineering calculations, and without a single witness looking from above. In 1963, in the Turkish town of Derinkuyu, residents decided to renovate a house. A man swung his hammer at a basement wall, and the wall suddenly collapsed inward, revealing a dark tunnel. Beyond the tunnel was a room. Beyond that room was another tunnel, and then another large chamber. An entire city stretched downward beneath Cappadocia like a gigantic stone anthill. 18 levels stacked beneath one another, reaching 85 meters to the very bottom. That is the depth of a 25-story skyscraper buried underground up to its roof. The city was designed for 20,000 inhabitants along with livestock, food supplies, and its own workshops. Inside were stables, wine cellars, communal kitchens, and hidden stone chapels. There were schools and prisons, as well as wells drawing water from underground sources at the deepest levels. Air was supplied through a system of more than 15,000 ventilation shafts. Each level had its own massive stone doors that could only be closed from the inside. They weighed up to 500 kilograms and rolled like giant millstones. From the outside, such a door could not be opened because there was simply nothing to grip onto. And this was far from the only underground. This underground city was far from the only one in the mountainous regions of Turkey. In Cappadocia, more than 200 such complexes of varying depth and preservation have been discovered. Between Derinkuyu and the neighboring town of Kaymakli stretches a tunnel nearly 8 kilometers long. The strangest thing about Derinkuyu is not even its enormous underground size, but the fact that we still do not know exactly who first began building it or when. Some researchers attribute it to the Hittites, who lived in the region around 4,000 years ago. Others point to the Phrygians, who spoke an Indo-European language around 2,800 years ago. The boldest theories connect the city's origins to the end of the last ice age, and not a single ancient document clearly explains how all of this was accomplished. How would you excavate such an underground labyrinth without bulldozers, without laser levels, and without architectural plans? This was built without modern tools, without mortar, and without a single drop of cement or clay. Peru. Near the ancient capital of the Inca civilization, high in the mountains at an altitude of 3,700 meters, rises the stone fortress of Sacsayhuaman, described in the chronicles of that era. Its walls are made of gigantic polygonal stone blocks, each with its own unique geometric shape. The wall zigzags across the mountainside like the jagged path of a massive lightning bolt. The main wall stretches around 400 meters in length and stands 6 meters high. The corners of the blocks are rounded, and the surfaces are polished so precisely that not even a sheet of paper can fit between them. The heaviest stones weigh between 128 and 200 tons each. The quarry of Rumakolka, where the material was taken from, lies 35 kilometers away from the fortress site. Between the quarry and the fortress are mountain gorges, rivers, and nearly impassable passes. The builders had no horses, no pack mules, no carts, and no wheel. Only human strength, ropes made from plant fibers, and raw pulling power. When the Spanish arrived here in the 15th century, they also could not understand what they were seeing. The chronicler Pedro Pizarro, nephew of the conquistador Francisco Pizarro, wrote in his diary that the lower part of the wall contained stones so enormous and heavy that, in his own belief, human hands could never have placed them there. He also wrote that the blocks were fitted so tightly together that even the tip of a pin could not enter the joints. Modern engineers later tested this claim using precise laser measuring instruments and confirmed its accuracy. There truly is no gap between the blocks, not even a microscopic one. The walls survived several devastating earthquakes that reduced Spanish churches to rubble. In the legends of the Inca themselves, there remains a memory of how this was supposedly achieved. An ancient serpent, they said, turned workers into stone blocks with nothing more than its gaze. This may have been built before the wheel, before metal, before any civilization known to us. Southern Japan. A small southern Japan. The island of Yonaguni, the last point before the open Pacific Ocean. In 1986, a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake was searching for a new diving location. At a depth of 25 meters, he discovered something extremely strange beneath him. A massive stone platform with steps, right angles, and flat terraces. About 150 meters long, 27 meters high, and 40 meters wide. A faceted wall, smooth surfaces, stone stairways, and something resembling a gigantic face. Sandstone nearly 20 million years old, fractured into geometric blocks. And here begins one of the most intense scientific debates in modern archaeology. Professor Masaki Kimura, from the University of the Ryukyus, insists it is a man-made structure. Geologist Robert Schoch from Boston University believes it is entirely the work of nature. The debate remains unresolved to this day, and both sides present powerful arguments. But the key point is this: if the Yonaguni Monument was built by humans, then it is at least 10,000 years old, because the last time this site was above water was at the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were about 100 meters lower. If humans built it, then it was built by people whose names we do not even know. Not the Hittites, not the Sumerians, not the Egyptians, nor any civilization familiar to us. Which theory do you personally find more convincing? A man-made platform or a remarkable creation of nature? This was built without modern tools, and everyone on Earth knows about it. Everyone has seen the Great Pyramid of Giza at least once, even if only in a school textbook photograph. But very few people know its true numbers in detail, and they are astonishing. 2.3 million stone blocks assembled into a single structure. The average block weighs about 2.5 tons, while the internal granite slabs brought from Aswan weigh up to 80 tons each. The distance from the quarry to the construction site was about 800 kilometers up the Nile River. Before losing its outer casing, the pyramid stood about 146 meters tall and remained the tallest structure on Earth for nearly 3,700 consecutive years. The horizontal level accuracy of its foundation differs by less than 2 centimeters across 200 meters of length. Modern skyscraper builders achieve such precision only with laser leveling equipment. The original Egyptian blueprints and detailed construction plans of the pyramid have never survived. But perhaps the strangest thing about the structure is its orientation toward the cardinal directions. Its sides face almost perfectly north, south, east, and west. The deviation is only about 3 minutes and 38 seconds of arc, less than 1/15th of a degree. Even more accurate than the official alignment of the Greenwich meridian when it was first established. Narrow shafts inside the pyramid point directly toward specific stars of the ancient sky: the Belt of Orion, the bright star Sirius, and the northern guiding star Thuban. And all of this was achieved by people who, according to our textbooks, did not even possess a simple compass. How many people do you think it would take to lift an 80-ton slab without machinery? This was built without cranes. And now, the heaviest example in the literal sense of the word. Remember the stone from the beginning of the video? The one from Baalbek in Lebanon? It is no longer just a single discovery, but an entire quarry landscape beside the temple complex. The most famous of these stones is known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. Roughly 1,000 tons of carved stone, more than 20 meters long, as tall as a 2-story house, precisely shaped on every side. Nearby lies an even larger stone known as the Stone of the South, weighing around 1,242 tons. And in 2014, archaeologists from a German institute uncovered a third massive block, the so-called Forgotten Stone, buried deep within the same quarry. About 1,500 tons. The largest carved stone ever made by human hands on Earth. And this stone was intended for a structure that was never completed. The Roman temples standing above Baalbek were built later, during the first centuries of the Common Era. But the famous Trilithon, 3 stones weighing roughly 750 tons each, lies at the very foundation. Each stone is 19 meters long, as tall as a 2-story building, and lifted 20 meters above the ground. They differ from Roman masonry in style, surface treatment, and weathering. A 15th century Maronite patriarch recorded a local legend claiming that Cain built Baalbek and settled giants there after creation itself. When Mark Twain visited the site in the 19th century, he wrote briefly in his diary that the history of the place was like a tightly sealed book closed to humanity. One group believes Baalbek was built by ordinary Roman engineers using winches and lifting systems. Another believes the trilithon existed there thousands of years before the Romans arrived. And now, the final structure we have been moving toward throughout this entire video. This was built without diamond drills, without bronze, without any known metal cutting tools. Bolivia, the Altiplano Plateau. At an altitude of around 3,850 meters above sea level, where the atmosphere contains 1/3 less oxygen than at sea level, no forests, no large trees for wooden rollers or transport systems. And yet here stands Pumapunku, the final mystery on today's stone list. The heaviest blocks weigh around 131 tons, almost 8 meters long, 5 meters wide, and more than a meter thick. The red sandstone quarry lies 10 kilometers uphill. The andesite blocks were transported even farther, from the opposite side of Lake Titicaca, nearly 90 kilometers by water or around the lake through the mountains. Andesite is one of the hardest rock types on Earth. On the Mohs hardness scale, it approaches the hardness of modern hardened steel. Modern diamond drill bits cut through it only with great difficulty and dull quickly. Yet the blocks of Pumapunku appear machine-made. Perfect 90-degree angles, completely flat surfaces, mirror-polished edges, H-shaped blocks fitted together like parts of a giant construction set. Not even a sheet of paper or a sharpened razor blade fits between them. The blocks contain perfectly drilled holes spaced only 6 millimeters apart. Archaeologists discovered traces of metal clamps made from pure copper. This means the builders knew metallurgy, yet still carved the stone largely by hand. Conventional dating attributes Pumapunku to the Tiwanaku culture around 1,500 years ago. Alternative theories claim it may be 12,000 years old or even older. Even the Inca, who arrived later, did not know who built it. Their legend simply said, "The gods built it in a single night." 7 structures, 7 locations, across different continents. One unanswered question connecting them all. Each of them challenges the simple, linear idea of human civilization, progressing from stone tools to bronze, and then to iron. These monuments seem to tell us something very different about our shared past. That once, here on this same planet, knowledge existed that humanity later lost. And today, even with diamond drills and 1,000-ton hydraulic cranes, we are still trying to catch up. Trying to catch up with people who, according to every textbook, did not even possess the wheel. Perhaps progress is not only about inventing something new and more complex. Perhaps humanity has simply forgotten far too much across the long passage of thousands of years. Perhaps progress is the ability to remember something ancient and forgotten. Place your hand on the nearest stone corner of any old building. Beneath it lies a memory older than our own alphabet.